I wanted to make this video to personally thank the Pittsburgh Steelers for beating the Tennessee Titans. Now, some of you are wondering, wait, why are you thinking the Pittsburgh Steelers? Well, because the Patriots' inability to beat the Colts on Saturday, and the Titans' just inability to play football well, the Steelers were able to defeat the Tennessee Titans, and now the Kansas City Chiefs have the number 1 seed in the AFC. Not what we expected whatsoever from the Chiefs after their slow start to this season, but if you look at the way that the AFC has been playing and how stupid it's been all year, and then you look at the way that the Chiefs have been playing recently, it completely makes sense why the Chiefs are now the number 1 seed in the AFC. Because if you look at this game today from the Tennessee Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers, it was not pretty at all. I thought both of these teams were absolutely terrible. They suck. Both of these teams are just completely terrible teams. You look at Pittsburgh, they're going to find a way to finish the season above 500 like they do every single year under Mike Tomlin somehow. He's never finished the season below 500, and somehow he's going to be able to do it again this year, which makes absolutely no sense because this team that he has should not even be close to a 500 team. But right now, them sitting at 7-6-1, somehow the Steelers are going to be at 500 at least. I feel like the Steelers will be. You look at the remaining schedule, they play Cleveland and Baltimore, and Cleveland and Baltimore have both been playing inconsistent, and I think they could probably beat both of them. Now, there's another game that they play. They play the Chiefs next week. Well, thank you, Pittsburgh, for allowing us Chiefs fans to be fans of yours for at least 1 week, because guess what? We hate you now. We no longer want to root for you. We just appreciate you, the fact that you took out the Tennessee Titans. The Steelers, their season, they're going to finish 500 again with Mike Tomlin as their head coach, at least 500. They may finish 8-1 because, like I said, they play Kansas City, Cleveland, and Baltimore. And I think they can win one more game this season and finish 8-1. But if you look at the way the Pittsburgh Steelers played in this game, they did not play very well at all. Big Ben only had 148 yards passing. That was terrible. They couldn't move the ball whatsoever in this game. They looked absolutely pitiful on offense. Najee Harris, I know he's a rookie, but he's had 13 games, 15 games, I think it's at this point. However many games they played this season. 14 games this season. And he absolutely looks like one of the worst running backs in the NFL this season. He looks terrible. There was one play in particular that he should have ran a specific way, and he had an ability to gain at least 2, 3, maybe 4 yards, and he just ran the other way and lost yardage. And I'm like, Najee Harris stinks. He hasn't developed whatsoever. The offensive line of the Steelers is absolutely a joke. They can't stop. They can't protect anybody. They can't protect Ben. They can't make holes for Najee Harris to run the ball. The Steelers stink. They are a bad football team. And they looked absolutely pitiful today. They really did. They had 168 total yards, 133 total passing yards, 35 rushing yards. They punted 5 times, and they only had the ball for 20 minutes. Then they only ran 45 plays, and they were sacked 3 times. The Steelers were absolutely terrible. 2 of 11 on third down. There was nothing good about the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. And just by reading the stats and how I'm mentioning it, the Steelers should have lost this game. And it shouldn't have even been close. It really shouldn't have. Now their defense did step up down the stretch and make some great plays to help them win this game. But they should not have been in this game. They looked awful to start this game. Absolutely terrible. But they were playing the Tennessee Titans today, who decided that we're going to use the excuse that we have a whole bunch of injured players right now as a reason that we're not playing well right now, which I don't understand because they have been without their key players for the longest time now, and these guys have had time to practice. I think they're just a bad football team. I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt earlier this week, and I was like, hey, they may be a good football team. They had players out, and maybe they can make a run for it with all these injured players, get those guys back. Because of that, they completely have their division wide open. Tennessee's division is completely wide open. The Colts could make a run for it. They play San Francisco next week, who's been hit or miss, but I think has been fairly good this season. They play Miami, who's very hot, and then they play Houston. Tennessee could easily lose 2 more games this season, and I'm being serious when I say that. I think they can lose to the 49ers and Miami. I really do. Tannehill had a really bad game, 152 yards. Foreman had a great game, 22 carries, 108 yards. He looked really good. But the turnovers, man, they fumbled the ball left and right today. They couldn't protect it whatsoever. Like, I swear, if the Tennessee Titans could have protected the ball one more time in this game, they could have won this game. I'm happy they lost. I really am. Because of that, the Chiefs are now the number 1 seed in the AFC. And the Chiefs' schedule, I think, is fairly favorable. They play Pittsburgh next week. Again, thank you, Pittsburgh, for winning. But, we hope to dominate you next week. Cincinnati, who has been very up and down and hasn't been playing particularly well recently. And then we have Denver, who hasn't been playing well recently at all either. They were 7-6 going in. Denver was. And I don't know how. I think Denver sits at 7-7 right now. It just makes no sense that the Broncos have that good of a record, but actually it kind of does make sense because the Broncos beat both New York teams and the Jaguars earlier this season. So that explains why their record's a little bit inflated, because those teams are absolutely terrible, and I feel like half the population could beat them with one arm tied behind their back. That is how pitiful and terrible those three teams are, both New York teams and the Jaguars. But I am very happy that the Steelers were able to beat the Titans. I hope the Titans continue to free fall, because I think the Colts are a much better football team than they are. I really, really do. I think Jonathan Taylor is... I think even if Derrick Henry was healthy, I think there would be an argument at this point, depending on what the workload is Tennessee continue to give Derrick Henry. Jonathan Taylor may be a better running back than Derrick Henry. That's just the thing. And because of that, Chiefs, number 1 seed. Now, the AFC playoff picture is just absolutely nuts. But there's one thing that is consistent. The Chiefs are now the number 1 seed in the AFC.